I love it because it's like we see it. We work with multiple six, seven, sometimes eight-figure business owners. What got them to those seven figures and beyond is not what got them there in the six-figure mark. And the things they have to implement, the team they have to implement, the skill sets they have to grow and develop are different. It's like a whole nother money mountain, essentially, they have to climb. And so really, I'm excited to kind of dive in and I want to hear your input on what are the areas that really support business owners to develop the skills and the capabilities and the confidence in doing that.
It comes back to a really, really simple question. And I am about elegant simplicity because it is what scales. I will tell you, complexity does not scale. And it starts with this really fundamental question of who are you? What do you stand for? And really getting that clear. And I think as you do evolve through different levels of success, this changes. And the reason you stall is because you end up in this weird new group where you're in the place of enlightenment. It's awesome. It feels comfortable. Your peers, you're all running at the same place, but you start to look and sound like everybody else. And guess what? That is not where your buyer is. And so then you start to have this stagnation, and then you start to just hustle and add complexity or throw money at things and said, you have missed the foundations. It is time to revisit and actually really go to the deep end, because that is really where your clients are. The superficial sizzle will not be enough of an engine to get you there.
It's true. What would you say the mistakes are that you're starting to see business owners make when they're trying to scale past that six-figure mark?
The first thing that people really lose sight of, which is sort of ironic, is actually the buyer. I actually think people start to lose sight of the buyer, because when you've already had momentum, you sort of start to, I would say, get lazy or take it for granted that the buyers will keep coming. But the way your business is evolving, so is the mindset, the pocketbook of the buyer. And I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is we start to think we know, but we start and stop looking to do the research. And I said, without an engine and being really clear who is the buyer you're looking for, not just who's the audience that you want around you, you really will struggle with the economics of your business. Because a lot of people in the space talk about visibility. Do the following things to get visible. And I'm not saying that visibility isn't a given. You need to do that. But to get the business to scale, to get volume and value creation, you need to have a really good heartbeat of that buyer and recognize that buyers are the ones who exchange money in your business. So we get really caught, and suddenly they're like, I think I should outsource this, or it's somebody else in the sales org's fault that we're not getting there. And I said, do you know who your buyer is? When's the last time you talked to them, really understood their choices in the marketplace, and see you as the must hire? And they usually answer that question, but they sound exactly like everybody else.
Yeah,
We're lost in the sea of sales.
It's true. Like, if we look at where we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, totally different market, to when we were in it a year ago, 2 years ago, to where we are now, it's different. It has changed. We will never go back to 3-4 years ago. We will never go back to 2 years ago. Where we are now and the dynamics of the world is different. And so I love that you're saying you essentially have to be constantly doing market research and checking in with your client and what is it that they actually need. I mean, we've seen it in the event space where we would do in-person events, which then converted into virtual events, which converted into hybrid, which converted into like, what are we doing now? The length of our events have changed. So we're constantly adapting to what's happening in the space and listening to the marketplace. And so you're saying the biggest thing is they're not listening.
They're not listening because they're assuming it hasn't moved. And they're also making the assumption that everybody is a buyer and that the buyer's experience is the same as what it was, and it's not. I made a really fundamental change in my business this year where I made the decision. Everyone was shocked, thought I was losing my mind, and said, I'm going to remove all of my group programs. They will be back in 24 in a different, totally reimagined way. And they're like, you're crazy. We scale by group, we scale by volume. And I said, I don't believe that's what the market wants. Too many people feel like they've been left behind. And we're talking high ticket clients that are really actually wanting to do the work, but they need a hand. And getting lost in a group was not helping anybody. And as a result, they got jaded. They slowed down their speed to purchase. They started to say, you sound like everybody else, and I don't have the bandwidth anymore to play the game. So I said, I'm going to drop them all. And I'm going to go only back into one-to-one. And everyone really thought I was losing my mind. And I said, I'm going to prove a point, because I'm not going to leave anybody behind. I'm going to help these people accelerate their business and give them both skills, mentorship, and capability, so they have the confidence to constantly iterate, because that's the number one goal I look for the result with my clients, is the ability to think critically, so you can be successful long-term, so you can scale in multiple iterations. And interestingly enough, best year of my business ever. I said, it doesn't require just taking the old formula if the old formula isn't working. And remember, that buyer group is only 3%. It's really small, but they're the ones who are spending. So if you want money in your pocket, the longer you stay disconnected, or the more you think you don't constantly need to connect, I think it costs you more than you can afford.